Hi, my name is Chris Briggs from the Family Benefits Advice Service of Employers for Childcare. And today I'm going to give some information for new parents who are currently in employment. So I'm going to cover some issues such as maternity and paternity leave and pay, child benefit, and then also help with childcare costs should you decide to return to work after your maternity leave or paternity leave period. So firstly, to talk about maternity leave and pay. So the first thing to say about maternity pay and also for paternity pay, these are things that are done through your employer. So you apply for your paternity or your maternity leave and pay through your employer, and it is something that they have to do certain calculations around to see if you have entitlement to that. So as far as firstly to cover statutory maternity leave, so eligible employees for statutory maternity leave can take up to 52 weeks of maternity leave. The first 26 is known as ordinary maternity leave, and the second 26 weeks is known as additional maternity leave. The earliest that any maternity leave can be taken is 11 weeks before the expected week of childbirth. Now, that is unless, of course, the child is born earlier than that. And if the child is born earlier than that, then your maternity leave would start immediately. And employees must take at least 2 weeks maternity leave after the birth of the child. The only difference in that is if you are a factory worker, in which case you're not allowed to start back until 4 weeks after the birth of the child. As far as the pay that you would receive whenever you are on maternity leave, and the maximum number of weeks pay that you can get on a statutory basis is 39 weeks. And as I mentioned earlier, it's your employer who you apply to this for, and they decide whether you have entitlement to receive any maternity pay. As a general rule, you need to have worked at least 41 weeks for your employer to receive maternity pay, and also have been earning at least £120 per week. So if you have entitlement to statutory maternity pay, it's paid for 39 weeks. The first 6 weeks are paid at 90% of your average weekly earnings. And then the remaining 33 weeks are paid at £151.20 or 90% of your average weekly earnings, whichever is the lower figure. And then if you're taking off for the remaining 13 weeks to bring it up to the full 52 weeks, then that remaining period would be on unpaid leave. Now, there's many employers that do top up these figures, so they pay occupational maternity pay over and above statutory, but that is something that you would need to contact your employer to see if you have any entitlement to that, and it's something that would be detailed in your contract of employment or your terms and conditions. So as I said, it's your employer who does the calculation to see if you're entitled to statutory maternity pay. If because of maybe you haven't earned enough or you haven't been working for your employer long enough, then your employer will tell you that, and they will issue you with a form called an SMP1 form. And that is a form that you can apply to the Jobs and Benefits Office with in order to apply for maternity allowance. So maternity allowance has a different set of criteria, but a maternity allowance payment can run also for 39 weeks and also can be paid at £151.20 or 90% of your average weekly earnings, again, whichever is the lower figure. Maternity allowance is calculated by the government, so they check to see how many weeks that you have been working and what your earnings have been, and that payment rather than being paid through your employer as your maternity pay is, that payment is paid directly from the government. So you receive that not through your employer, but directly through the government as a benefit payment. If you are a father or applying for paternity leave or pay, again, paternity leave and pay is something that is done through your employer. You can't get that unless you are in work. And paternity leave for eligible employees is up to 2 weeks off. You can either take 1 week by itself or 2 weeks as a block together. Again, you need to have been working for at least 41 weeks and earning £120 a week in order to receive paternity pay. And again, it is paid at £151.20 per week, or 90%, whichever is the lower figure. Now, if you have not been working for the 41 weeks for your employer, or you have not been earning the £120 per week as a minimum, there is no alternative to paternity pay in the way that there is through maternity allowance for mums who are applying for it. So that's sometimes where paternity leave claimants can find that they are disadvantaged just due to the way the rules are. Now, there's some parents who during their child's first year may want to choose to share their time off and the statutory payments that will come with that. And this is known as shared parental leave and pay. We have an information fact sheet on our website at employersforchildcare.org that gives details on the eligibility and also how to apply for shared parental leave and pay. There's quite detailed rules on the eligibility for that, and both employers have to do certain calculations and to check the eligibility of both partners in order to be able to apply for shared parental leave and pay. So I direct you there for some more information on that. So moving on now, you have received information about maternity leave or paternity leave, and then the next thing that will happen, all being well, is that baby is born, and what do you do then? So the first thing that you need to do once your baby is born is to get your baby registered. That's usually at a local council office or town hall, etc. You get your baby registered and get a birth certificate for your child. And that then allows you to claim child benefit for your child. In order to claim child benefit, you can go onto the government website, www.gov.uk/child-benefit. That's the place that you can go to get your child benefit claim form. Child benefit is paid at £21.05 per week for the eldest or the only child, and then for any additional children, and that is additional children whether they are younger children that you have at a later date, or also children that you have at the same time as part of a multiple birth, twins or triplets, etc. So an additional child payment is at £13.95 per week. So that's £21.05 for the first child and £13.95 for any other subsequent children. Child benefit used to be universal, so it was paid to everyone, but that is not the case any longer. You need to be earning under £50,000 in order to receive child benefit. If one parent who is living in the household is over this, then as a household you lose 10% of your child benefit for each £1,000, and that is up to £60,000, above which there is no entitlement to child benefit. So just to reiterate, that's the case if only one parent is over the 50,000. It's not joint earnings. If one parent's over 50, then you start to lose the child benefit. This reduction in child benefit is known as the high income child benefit tax charge, and it is usually deducted through your tax code. Again, on .gov.uk, there is information about the high income child benefit tax charge. Even where there is earnings of over 60,000 and where there is no entitlement then for child benefit, it still can be advantageous to register your child through child benefit and not receive any payment from them. The reason for this is this can protect certain national insurance credits for a lower earner in the household, but also it means that your child automatically receives a national insurance number whenever they turn 16. So just because there's no payment in place for child benefit, it doesn't mean that you don't go on ahead and register for child benefit. So moving on then, for people who may be considering returning to work after maternity leave or paternity leave ends. So while you're off on maternity or paternity leave, you may have a lower income due to the reduction in your normal income and it being replaced just by statutory maternity pay. During that time, you may have an entitlement to universal credit or to some other benefits. I'm not going to go into detail on those now. Again, we have information on our website regarding universal credit, which is a means-tested benefit, but I am going to go into more details about universal credit and how it can help support you with childcare costs once you return to work. Universal credit is a means-tested benefit, so that means that things that affect it are your income, your household circumstances, the number of children that you have, and also if there's any disabilities in the household or if there are any housing costs such as rent that you pay. So universal credit has an element in it called the childcare element. And the childcare element is the part of universal credit that helps pay towards childcare costs. So a household on universal credit can claim up to 85% of their relevant childcare costs. And that's up to a maximum amount of childcare costs of £175 a week for one child or £300 a week for 2 or more children. And that's for children up to the age of 16. As I've said, it's a means-tested benefit. So that means that whenever you are in receipt of universal credit and they are applying 85% of the childcare costs, it does not mean that you would receive the full amount because of the other income factors that are taken into consideration. The way the childcare element works is that you as the parent pay the childcare provider whatever the bill is that fall within your monthly assessment period. You as the parent then submit either invoices of proof of payment to universal credit. And you do that through an online portal that, an online journal that Universal Credit has as a means of communicating directly with them. Then at the end of each assessment period, Universal Credit calculate what your income has been and also what your outgoings have been during that period. And then they pay you an amount of universal credit that includes a reimbursement of the 85% of your childcare costs in the calculation. There are other forms of support with childcare costs for people who aren't entitled to universal credit. There's a couple of old benefits that you may hear of people being entitled to, such as childcare vouchers or tax credits, but they are benefits that are only, people who are only eligible for those are ones who are already in each of those systems. So if you're a new parent, you're not able to access either of those forms of help. However, what you are entitled to access is called tax-free childcare. And tax-free childcare is one of the replacements for the childcare voucher system, as I just mentioned. So where you are not entitled to universal credit because of your income or circumstances, or you have a very low entitlement to universal credit, then tax-free childcare may be a better alternative for you in your circumstances. Tax-free childcare is very broad in its eligibility rules, so it's not means tested as such, in that as long as you are earning at least £138.52 per week and below £100,000 per year, and if you're part of a couple that both parents are in work, then you will be eligible for tax-free childcare. And also self-employed parents are also eligible to join the scheme. What you have to do each 3 months is just confirm your eligibility with tax-free childcare, that you're still in work, still using registered childcare, and that you're still earning between those thresholds. So if you have an eligibility for tax-free childcare, then HMRC will pay 20% of your registered childcare costs for you. The way it works is that you set up a tax-free childcare account within HMRC. And to do that, you go onto a website called childcarechoices.gov.uk. Within that allows you to set up effectively an online tax-free childcare bank account. Into that account, you pay in 80% of your registered childcare costs. And HMRC then tops up the remaining 20% within around 24 hours. You then, in that account, have the full 100% of your childcare costs to pay directly from that account to your childcare provider's bank account. The maximum amount, monetary amount, that you can receive through tax-free childcare is £2,000 per child. So that means that you would have a total childcare bill of £10,000. So tax-free childcare will pay up to £2,000, the 20% of that maximum figure, for any child who's 11 years or under and using registered childcare. If you have a child who has a disability, HMRC will pay up to £4,000 of your registered childcare costs. It is not that HMRC are paying a higher percentage, it's just that they are allowing for the fact that children with a disability may have higher childcare costs, and that's why they allow that higher figure. And as I mentioned, with tax-free childcare, you have to apply through a website called childcarechoices.gov.uk, where they will guide you through the process. So that comes to the end of my information. That covers maternity and paternity leave and pay. And then moving on to child benefit, whenever your child is born. You may have an entitlement after that while on a lower income for universal credit. And then if you're considering returning to work at the end of maternity or paternity leave, then you may be able to apply for help with childcare costs through universal credit or tax-free childcare. There's information on all these different forms of help and eligibility rules for each one on our website at employersforchildcare.org. We also have fact sheets on that website and other information videos as well. You can also contact one of the family benefits advisors where we'll be able to talk about your specific situations, looking at what your income and what your possible scenarios are for returning to work or any other change of circumstances that you may have. The Family Benefits Advice Service is available on email at hello at employersforchildcare.org or on free phone 0800 028 3008.